Hey everyone, this is Andrig with Andrig's Aircooled Technology. Wanted to announce something new. First, a real quick update too. For those of you who have been waiting on orders because of my manufacturing issue, I've got all the new parts. So they're here. I've got all the backlog orders packed and ready to go. So they'll all go out on Monday. Today is Saturday. So post office was just closed at noon today. So they'll go out on Monday. And many of you I've given emails to, but everything's back in stock with the exception of fixed cooling flaps. But anyway, here is new product announcement. Now this is not new. This is the Evolution 1 fan, originally designed just to go into a doghouse fan shroud, whether that was aftermarket or whether it was OEM. Doesn't really matter. That's what it was designed for, and it really didn't work in much of anything else, with the exception of aftermarket 36 horsepower style non-doghouse fan shrouds. They actually have the internals the same as a doghouse in terms of size, because they were designed to fit the later model fans for the doghouse fan shroud. So these always fit in those fan shrouds. But they didn't fit in things like a 36 horsepower OEM fan shroud or a 40 horsepower OEM fan shroud or any of the OEM fan shrouds up to 1971 before the doghouse fan shroud. So all the non-doghouse OEM fan shrouds, this would not fit in. So I've actually come up with a way for this without changing the fan dimensions or anything to fit in those fan shrouds. So if you have a 36 horsepower, let's say, across the engine build and you want some additional cooling, you now have an option for that. What I did is I changed the mount. This part of the mount is significantly shorter. It's like 7 or 8 millimeters shorter than the one that goes in for the doghouse fan shroud. So the new mount, everything else is really the same because the fan is the same. It's really just pull the fan down closer to the generator alternator side. And in order to do that, that requires some changes to the backing plates. The backing plates stick out into the fan shroud quite a ways. So what I have here is, depending on what you're running, so if you have, let's say, an early Volkswagen 6-volt generator, have a backing plate for that right here. Actually, it would go that way. Well, actually, it would go that way. That replaces this backing plate. You can see how far that juts out into the fan shroud itself, the space, and you can see how this one doesn't jut into the fan. It puts the generator in the exact same position relative to the pulley, so your pulleys line up. It's just, it kind of looks similar, but it doesn't indent the same way because it can't, because it has to be much thinner to allow the fan to suck up in this way, giving us more space for the fan to fit. Okay, so that's if you got 6 volt. I've got you covered there. If you're Porsche 356 or 912, we have the same thing for you for the small case generator. It looks basically the same, but it's not. The dimensions are all the same, but the angle of the generator is different on Porsche, so this follows that difference. So if you're an outlaw Porsche guy who doesn't mind customizing your car, and you've done whatever you've done to your 356 or 912 engine to improve its performance, or you just live in a hot climate or at high altitude or whatever, and you need extra cooling, now you have an option for extra cooling other than the velocity ring that I sell. So now you can even pair this with a velocity ring on a 356 912 fan shroud. Works beautifully. For 356, we're talking about a 20% increase with this fan over OEM. For early Volkswagen, it's actually about a 15% increase, a little over 15% increase in airflow. And then if you have either 12-volt generator or large case generator in the Porsche world, I have this. It's the inner backing plate, and it just replaces the inner backing plate, and it just marries up. It just marries up with your steel outer backing plate, and of course the ring, the steel ring that actually goes in here too for your either alternator or large case generator. So this replaces the inner, and again, now we've taken a whole bunch of space out of that. We've added a large, opening back here. Ignore this little defect on the back of this. This is an initial test print. I'm just using it for photos and stuff. But we won't have that little defect on the production parts. But it just fits. It just fits on there, the same way, and you just bolt everything up the same way. And now you got either your large case generator for Porsche guys, 12-volt generators or alternators, and of course alternator conversions on the Porsche side tend to be the same. They use the same case diameter as the generators, make it look the same, etc. So I've got options for all of that, and I tried to make the other thing to just point out. I tried to make this look, as much like the original backing plate as I could, with changing the dimension, so it doesn't have, it doesn't kind of stick out as far, because obviously this is not very deep. But I gave the same recess. I put in essentially the same stamped, kind of raises. Of course, this is a 100% solid part, and so it's actually really stiff and very strong. So you don't have to worry about strength of that versus your your two-piece backing plate. And it does have the indentation for the steel ring that fits in here. Okay, so you'll still use your steel ring behind this, which of course reinforces the backing plate itself as well. So that's on your small case or 6-volt generators. You'll still need that. The original OEM ring will install in there, and of course with the 3-piece and or 4-piece, the OEM ring goes on the back of the steel part, and then this goes over the top of that, and so it all fits together properly with the steel ring in place. I've had a number of people with that 12-volt version of this running, like 2 people running it from a long time ago when I first did some first prototypes. I sent it out to a couple of customers, well before I got to, I think more than a year ago now. So now you can get Evolution 1 fans for, all the OEM fan shrouds, non-doghouse fan shrouds, all the way back to 36 horsepower. I don't know if anybody has a 25 horsepower fan shroud, but I'm guessing it's the same. I've never been able to find one to buy one, so I bought a 36 horsepower and I bought a 40 horsepower fan shroud just to make sure everything fit right. And of course I have also, for you Porsche guys, I have the a 356 912 fan shroud as well, and I have the actual Porsche backing plates, both small case and large case. So with all that, we've got this new product out there. It's available immediately. Of course, the backing plates are 3D printed, so it takes a little time, but we'll happily ship those as quickly as we can. And I'm printing parts actually now to try to build a little bit of inventory ahead of people actually ordering. But they're available on the website andrigs.com right now, and you can purchase those. They're a little bit more expensive because of the additional parts that have to be made, and other than that, and you'll see the prices, and it varies based on whether you're doing large case stuff or small case stuff, 12-volt or 6-volt. The 6-volt parts are more expensive to make. The 12-volt parts are it's much cheaper. It's a much smaller part. It's very thin, and small parts, so it doesn't cost very much to make. So there's a variance in price between the options. You just pick the right option for what you're actually running on your charging system, and I'll ship you the right parts. So with that, I appreciate all the support you guys have had this year, and ignore my cat who's meowing at me right now. And again, I appreciate all the support, and these new things are available. Of course, the fan's not new, but making it fit all the other fan shrouds. So now there's a lot more options. If you've got Super V, Formula V, Super V engine, 1200 cc, this is perfect for that as well if you're running a stock fan shroud. Of course, if you're running the aftermarket fan shroud, a 36 horsepower aftermarket fan shroud, you could already do this. But yeah, so with that, I'll sign off and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.